Hey guys, today we are going to be taking notes, quite a few notes, and it's going to be on the Encomienda system. So, in your notebook at the top of your next blank page, put Encomienda system as your title. So, we're going to be talking about when the Spanish conquered the Americas. So, we can see in this image, this is when Christopher Columbus and the other Spaniards came to the Americas and colonized in North, Central, and South America. And since we're talking about the Spanish, let's look for the Spanish in this key. So, what color are the Spanish? They are yellow. So, let's look at the yellow on the map. So the areas that the Spanish conquered was much of what's modern day Mexico, down through Central America, the west coast of South America, and then also some of these Caribbean islands just south of Florida. So we're looking at Mexico, Central America, and the west coast of South America. Now, I do want you to be writing this down, but you can put it in your own words. So, October 1492, I'm sure you've heard, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. In 1492, he, quote unquote, discovered America or discovered the Americas. So, when the Spanish first met the natives in South America, it was pretty friendly. And you can see in the image, it looks like the Spanish are showing things to the natives, talking to them, and it seems pretty friendly. It doesn't seem very hostile. But that started to change when the Spanish tried to take over the natives' land and force the natives to work for them for free. So it didn't start bad. It actually started pretty friendly, but it took a turn when the Spanish tried to take over. So, conquistadors, and I do want you to write this down. So, conquistadors, which is Spanish for conquerors, were Spanish soldiers who came to North and South America for God, glory, and gold, our three G's of exploration. So, they are Spanish soldiers who are conquering the Americas. They're colonizing in the Americas. And they did this, they were able to conquer these people because they had guns, because the natives didn't have guns, germs, so the diseases that they brought that we talked about in class the other day with the Columbian exchange. They had iron weapons, much more advanced than the weapons that the natives had, and they had the horse. So we also talked about this one last class too, that the horse changed things for the natives, but also it made it easier for the conquistadors, for the Spanish to take over and control these people. Because if you try to run away or if you try to escape, then they have guns, they have weapons, and they can outrun you on a horse. So we're going to look at two conquerors, two conquistadors, and one of them is Hernan Cortez. So he explored Mexico and conquered the Aztec Empire in 1519. So if you remember back to sixth grade, you learned about the Aztec Empire. And the end of the Aztec Empire came when the Spanish came to America. And this man, Hernan Cortez, was the one responsible for that. Our second conquistador is Francisco Pizarro. So he explored South America, so further south than Cortez, and he destroyed the Incan Empire. So you also learned about the Incas in sixth grade as well. And when I say he destroyed the Incan Empire, I mean he was ruthless. He did whatever it took to conquer these people and take over their land. So these conquistadors, these conquerors, they were all in it for the glory and the gold. They were all in for the glory and the gold. Didn't care what they had to do to get there. So, Spanish colonial economy. So, their system for money, and I do want you to write this down. So, their economy was based on mining gold and silver and farming sugarcane on plantations. So, they got their wealth, they got their gold, if we're talking about the 3Gs, from actual gold, silver, and sugarcane that was grown on plantations. If we look at this graph over here, this shows us the value of the gold and silver they're getting in millions of pesos. So essentially millions of dollars. And we can see it goes from 1 million, about 1 million pesos in this first category, 1516 to 1520. And in about 80 years, so 1596 to 1600, it jumps all the way up to $35 million. So that's a huge jump. So when they're mining this gold and silver and they're taking it from the natives because it's worth a lot. And if it's worth a lot, they are wealthy. They got that gold. Now, I know there's a lot on this slide, and I do want you to write it all. So take your time. If you need to pause and write, that's totally fine. So number 1, and this is the breakdown of the Encomienda system. So first of all, it's a Spanish practice of securing an adequate and cheap labor supply. So if you look at that bullet point underneath, it's another way of saying it's how the Spanish got a lot of cheap labor. They needed a lot of people to work for them, and they needed it to be cheap or free if they could make them work for free. Number 2, the conquistadors, those Spanish conquerors, controlled Indian populations. They had all the power. They controlled those people. The natives, who they controlled, were required to pay tribute from their lands. And what that means is when they mined the silver and gold, when they grew and harvested the sugarcane, they had to give that to the conquistadors. They also rendered personal services as well. So they also kind of became personal servants or assistants to the conquistadors. Again, they weren't being paid for this, or if they were, it wasn't for much. And they were being forced, they didn't have a choice. So the conquistadors controlled the population, but in return, the conquistador had to protect the natives and convert them to Christianity. Now, they weren't really protecting the natives from anything except for the other Spanish people. They didn't really need protection until the Spanish got there. But they were really talking themselves up, like, we are going to protect you as long as you work for us. But if you're not working for us, you're on your own. And they won't protect them. And this system eventually decimated or killed the Indian population. And we'll look at this on the next slide, just how drastic. When we use the word decimated, that's a very dramatic word. Because we use that word because it was so fast how many natives, how many Indians they lost because of this system. So in this system, it says over here, disease and overwork killed large numbers of natives. So if we look at this graph, in 1519, there were 25.3 million natives. 25.3 million. In roughly 90 years, by 1605, there was only 1 million natives left. They went from 25 million to 1 million. Think about how crazy that difference is. And we even can see when you look at how steep, if you look at how steep this graph is, I mean, that's going down super fast. So those diseases that they brought on the boat when they came over, and being overworked as slaves. They didn't call them slaves, but that's what they were. And being overworked killed them. 24 million natives. Now, the natives are dying, but the conquistadors who are controlling these people who need them to have this free labor, they're like, well, all the natives are dying. We still need people to work for us. We still need slaves. So when the native population gets so low, that's when they start bringing slaves from Africa to work on the plantations. So Africans weren't actually the first slaves in the Americas, it was the natives. But they overworked the natives, they brought diseases that killed the natives, and they were running low on people. So they brought people over from Africa to be their slaves. Now, this man, make sure you're writing this down. This man is very important. His name is Bartolome de las Casas, and he is a Spanish priest who convinced the government to pass a law that said that you could not use Indians as slaves. And he is known as the protector of the Indians because he saw, when we looked at that graph, he saw that there were only 1 million natives left and that they'd been overworked and that they hadn't been treated fairly. And he convinced the government to pass a law that says it's illegal to use natives as slaves, which was great for the natives because now they didn't have to be slaves. And I don't know if this was his intention, but when they banned the use of natives as slaves, this was another thing that brought Africans to the States, to the Americas, to be slaves. So the reason they started bringing Africans to come be slaves was because the natives that they had enslaved were dying, and then they made it illegal to use them. Now, this is our last slide, and I do want us to write this in your notebook. So draw this triangle in your notebook, and I want you to write all the words that are in here too. So this is the colonial class system. And in this system, if you can kind of tell if you're reading it a little bit, the more Spanish you are, the higher your status is, the higher you are on this pyramid. The less Spanish you are, the lower you are on this pyramid. So, and normally the reason that these peninsulars, this first group is so small is because normally the people with the most power is the smallest group of people. So the people at the top are called peninsulares, and these are Spanish settlers in America. So peninsulares, the people at the very top, are people who were born in Spain, they got on a boat, they came to the Americas. So peninsulars were born in Spain, got on a boat, came to the Americas. So they are 100% Spanish. Then we go down a level, we have Creoles. Creoles are also 100% Spanish, but here's the difference. Peninsulars were born in Spain. Creoles were born in America. That's the only difference. So if I was Creole, both of my parents are from Spain, but I was born in America. I was born in Central and South America. So Creoles and Peninsulars are both 100% Spanish, but Peninsulars were born in Spain, Creoles were born in the Americas. Then we get down to our mixed heritage. So one parent is Spanish, the other parent might be Native, or one parent is Spanish and the other parent is African. So if one parent is Spanish and my other parent is Native, I would be a mestizo. If one parent is Spanish and the other is African, I would be a mulatto. So the only thing that puts this group, this purple group of mixed heritage, above the bottom group, the only thing that keeps them from being at the bottom is their one Spanish parent. Then if I look at the bottom, my lowest group are people who are 0% Spanish. They have no Spanish in them at all. So that would be my Native Americans and my African slaves.